And here we are, good people. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Desmond. I have my wonderful co-host Dre with me. We are Michigan football at the Voice of College Football. Shout out to Mark Rogers for bringing us into the fold and the family. And we're here to talk about Michigan football. And they just wrapped up their game against Northern Illinois. Huge win, 63-10. Michigan moves to 3-0. Huge game from the running backs, which is not really anything new in 2021. Guys have been performing well, and like I said, they have another big win, and Michigan's 3-0. So, Dre, well, number one, thanks so much for joining us. Good to see you as always. And I feel like you change your facial hair like literally every time I see you. Like, do you want to talk about that a little bit or no?
The many faces of Dre. That's what I call it. We can make that a segment. Just like to change it up.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And me knowing you like that really, it makes a lot of sense. So quick reaction, just kind of live reaction. What are your thoughts on the game? What just go ahead and roll with it.
Yeah, I'm going to continue to say the same thing so I can be consistent, right? Anytime I watch this team, it's based on, how they did that day, based on the competition they had that day, and also what does that performance on a particular day mean for future opponents and the outlook of the season to reach the goal of winning the Big Ten and beating Ohio State for the first time in like 13, 14 years. Now, that being said, today was the type of day in which there's just not much. I'll never say anything. We've never said anything negative. It was always about, okay, what are some questions? What are some things? With this team that's been playing so well these first few games of the season, what are the things we're not seeing that can keep them from that goal of winning the Big Ten or beating Ohio State down the line? And today's one of those days where they played. They dominated on all facets of the game, special teams, defense. The question you asked last week, like when is this team going to force a turnover? They forced a turnover today. They got their first pick. They continue to run the ball at an incredible clip. I mean, as a team, they averaged 7.8 yards a carry, right? You got Blake Corum, 9.6, Donovan Edwards, a true freshman, 10.8, Hassan Haskins, 6.2. And so yes, NIU, but it's the third week in a row in which this team has over 300 yards rushing, and they are totally dominating the line of scrimmage, and that speaks to execution, that speaks to talent, but also more importantly, that speaks to a mentality. You think about the best, rushing teams. It's not always about the running back. It's about the offensive line and the mentality of the offensive line. In the NFL, think about the Dallas Cowboys with Emmitt Smith, or even recently, think about Zeke's best years with the Cowboys, right? They had that fantastic offensive line. The Kansas City Chiefs, back in the day when they had Brian Waters and, no matter who was back there, Jamal Charles or Priest Holmes or Larry Johnson, you pick. I know I'm going to the NFL there, but I'm just trying to talk about the mentality and the importance of having a cohesive and dominant offensive line, and I think you're seeing that. And then that will be something that is showing signs that can translate. Now, would it be as dominant versus better teams? Maybe not. But even if they're a couple steps back, even if they average, half the yards, they're averaging, 150 to 170 yards a game. That's still really, really, really good. And I thought offensively, we saw something today that we haven't seen. And that was, we saw that explosive play down the field in the passing game. Cade, hits Cornelius Johnson for an 87-yard pass down the field. You know what I'm saying? And that's really important. And it was a fantastic throw. Cade led him beautifully down towards the sideline where Cornelius kind of separated from the corner with his strides, caught it over his shoulder, and it just kind of took off towards the end zone. So, in terms of things, there was nothing that I didn't see. That I don't think any of us haven't seen this game. It was domination and a really good, small, but necessary step to our goals this year.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like it just, I mean, there's no way to paint it any other way than Michigan had just a monster, just dominating win. At the end of the day, like I get it, it's a MAC opponent, like it's not, a Big Ten team. I'm like, but to beat someone 63-10, like that's impressive. If you switch the labels and it was, Ohio State that beat NIU 63-10, you look at it like, man, that's like I get it, right? They're the better team, but that's still an impressive win. So definitely going to give Michigan the, give them kudos. Like it dominating win. And two, like as much as I get on the pass game, like having games like this and even the two other games that Michigan's played, that can all, while I want to give the pass game, confidence, this can also give the O-line, run game confidence as well. And I'm not going to get off of my point of you are going to need a pass game to get to where Michigan wants to be, but there is something to be said of an efficient run game as well. It's like I said, I think the one thing that I will highlight is having one guy kind of carry that load when it comes to the pass game with Cornelius Johnson. 3 catches for 117 yards and a touchdown. That to me, it's been something that we've been looking for, right? Because ever since Ronnie Bell went down with the injury, the question was who's going to step up, who's going to be, that number one receiver. Because because I think we have agreed on it that I think the pass game is going to be kind of a by committee approach. It's not going to be just one guy that's getting 80-90% of the targets. Even with that, I think you still need a number one receiver. Like you need a go-to guy. You need someone that, it's 3rd and 10, the game is on the line. We're down 4, and we got to have it. Like you need to have one guy that you feel good about going to in the pass game. And I think with, today and hopefully moving forward that guy might be Cornelius Johnson. So we will see what happens. Like I said, we had a conversation with, with you, myself, and Mark of passing attempts, what we would like to see, what we think we'll see. I think most of us were kind of in the 15 to 18 range. Overall, we're pretty close to that. They ended up with 17. So it's like, with both quarterbacks like that, we're pretty close to it. So it is what it is. Like I said, I think I'm reserved to the point of, like, I understand what Michigan's going to do. They're going to run the football, especially when they have a team that they can move off of the ball. They're gonna run the ball, and that it just is what it is. Obviously, like I've hammered it home enough. I'm not going to change Jim Harbaugh's philosophy and just how they operate and do things. So it is what it is. It's an incredible win. Like I said, it nothing but praise and my thing is too, what we can kind of get to next is, man, are we going to have a Blake Corum for Heisman, discussion? Because, granted, I think today he had 125 yards on the ground, another 13 in the, in the air as far as receiving. But before today, he was number 1 in the country in yards per game. And I don't think he did anything today to make you think that that's going to change at all. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Like, what are your thoughts on the potentially Blake Corum for Heisman?
Well, first off, I'm seeing the comment. Before I answer that question, I'm seeing comments like what we're complaining about this week. We haven't said one complaint. We said it was total domination. So I don't know where that's coming from. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what Malachi's talking about. We haven't complained once. We said it dominated and all. We even said they even did things we haven't seen the last couple of games with the play Cornelius Johnson, a passing play, and also, whatever. But in terms of Blake Corum, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's dominating. He's and for this dominant rushing attack that we have, he's the number 1 threat. And I'm actually thinking, especially the way Donovan Edwards played today, that we may be 3 running backs deep, in which we're like,
And
we're
Donovan was
everybody's
good in
playing
week
really
1 too
well.
when he got opportunities. Like he may not have blown open the stats, but in watching that game, seeing his wiggle, his side to side, like there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
Speed too.
Sorry to interrupt you, but yes,
no,
for
you're
sure.
fine. And he has a burst. When he breaks through that hole and he sees that opening. A lot of running backs, they could be strong through the line of scrimmage. They could break tackles, but they don't have breakaway speed, right? They can't get away from that second and third level. And Donovan, as a true freshman, is showing the ability to do that. He can be not only a really good every down back one day, but also a home run threat. So that's fantastic. But back to Blake, no, man, he's playing fantastic. He's probably right. He's been one of the most dangerous weapons in college football, bar none, if not number one. That's how he's playing. Every time he touches the ball, he literally has been a threat to score. And if he's able to continue to do this, and the more Michigan wins, like if he continues to do this week to week, and Michigan wins, let's say, by the last 3 or 4 games in the season, Michigan's 8-1 or undefeated. Oh yeah, he's definitely. I'll even put him as my number 1 Heisman, person. That's how much of an impact he's having on their game. So no, I think he's definitely an early dark horse to win the Heisman based on how he's playing. Not and that's different than previous years from Michigan. We get the preseason
the
Heisman
September
hype,
Heisman.
right?
Yeah, that's been a stigma with Michigan
this is
players.
legitimate. This is legitimate, but Blake he's proven it on the field. It's not hype. And it's great to see.
Yeah. And I think the thing, highlighting today was the amount of touches, right? So he has 14 touches. And the thing that I think about it, and it's funny, so it's homecoming weekend here I live in Adrian, just for everybody. I don't think that's been a thing that's come up. I live in Adrian. Went to Adrian College, and actually this is homecoming weekend. So one of my best friends, my brother, was inducted into the Hall of Fame yesterday. Shout out to Taz Wallace. But despite that, a lot of the guys have gotten together, right? And we all play football and all good stuff. But we were talking about how it's so important, especially with running backs, because you have a finite number, right? You have a finite amount of tread on the tires, so to speak, or miles on the vehicle. And the thing that I appreciate the most about this game was, it's a game that I don't think you needed Blake Corum to go crazy, right? You didn't need a ton of touches for him. So the fact that they only had 14 touches for Blake Corum, I think was important. I think it's very, it's strategic. I think it's more high level than maybe some people don't even really think about. But I think that's important because you're probably going to have a game of, and maybe it's against a Wisconsin or Penn State or Ohio State or one of the big games that you end up playing where you're going to need him to have, 20 to 25 touches. So I think it's important to have games like this where you don't really need to lean on him and you're strategic in how you get him the ball, right? So he was extremely productive. 10 yards a carry, but at the same time too, you didn't overwork him with his body. You know what I mean? Because that stuff's important. And just injuries, like that's something that's going to happen. You look at the Minnesota running back. In game 1, he got injured. He's done for the season. Like, so it literally every touch, every carry is important. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to the grind of the season, like you want to get him, it's a delicate balance. You want to get him enough to where, you know what I mean? Like he comes out of this game feeling more confident than the week before, but you also don't want to run him into the ground. So it's a delicate balance. And I think Michigan did a good job of handling that, in this game.
Well, I also think I don't know if that's by design or it's just the fact that they have those 3 running backs that just all earned their trust. That's just how well they're all playing. And it makes that job as a coaching staff a lot easier where you can throw a guy in there, a kid in there, and you don't have to worry about losing a lot of production. It may be a different look, a different type of weapon, Haskins, Edwards, and Corum, but you feel equally as dangerous on offense, right? You don't feel like you're really losing anything. So that So you gotta give credit to the running backs for making that job so easy for the coaches to do that, and I feel like, maybe we are tipped, they feel a bit more comfortable low in the box, you know what I'm saying? So no, it's everyone's playing well, and like we said, it's just not much negative we can talk about, especially when it comes to running backs right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I for me and maybe I'm selfish or just in a category by myself, I would like them to throw the ball a little more. But when you look at the run game efficiency, it was listen, Michigan has something serious when it comes to their run game. This isn't just like fluky, to me and my eyes as far as what I see with them. I think it's legitimate. I still do think that, you're probably in that, I say that because obviously we don't know, probably not going to be able to beat, the top tier teams. With Ohio State, we're not quite sure, right? They had the loss to Oregon. So it's like, we're pretty sure that they're still going to be that top tier team. But, at the end of the day, like when whatever, Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, those types of teams, I just don't think that you'll be able to run exclusively and beat those teams. Like there's got to be a little bit of pass game.
We got to work our way there for the first days, we got to work.
That's true. Very true.
We're not,
very true.
I can't even think about Alabama or Clemson. We're talking about meeting them in the college football playoff. I mean, we can't, we'll discuss that when we get there.
Cross that bridge
right now. Yeah.
That's
right
fair.
now the main question is, can this running attack be effective week to week throughout this Big Ten season? Can it get us to the Big Ten title game? Can it help us win a Big Ten title? And as and Mark even last week talked about, when we did the live stream, talked about, Ohio State has their own issues, and they having a really hard time stopping the run. So if that's one of the issues that because sometimes you have an issue early in the season and you just can never get it figured out. That happens sometimes. So if that is an ongoing issue when Michigan plays them, that will be tough to stop, especially if Michigan can continue to establish this as their identity and something that they bring consistently week to week. And one thing we haven't, the two of us haven't really talked about enough in this rushing attack is the effectiveness and the dominance of the offensive line. They've been fantastic. And it's a beautiful thing to watch from a football perspective when an offensive line is just totally blowing guys off the line of scrimmage. They're digging their heels in and they're having great technique and not see any holding calls. You're seeing this pure guys knowing their assignments and just firing off and just destroying guys, from the center out and to the tight ends, receivers, doing their jobs as well. It's just a beautiful thing to watch, and the more you do it, the better it gets week to week. I like to think of, run blocking. It's almost like it's getting in the rhythm just as much as someone is shooting the basketball and a shooter in basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a rhythm thing, understanding your assignments. It's a mentality, right? And the more you're able to do it and be effective and successful with it, the better you get, and that is something that's been surprisingly just, impressive. So, and yes, let's toast. I maybe I'll bump up my 20% up to 35%. I'm sure Mike's having what about the offensive line coach? I don't even know. The offensive line coach's name is slips my mind right now, but he's also done a good job with offensive line. So look, I love Mike, but
I just think I agreed. Agreed. I think that it's just interesting trend that, number one, Mike Hart was at Indiana last year, and their performance and those running backs were successful.
Don't do that. Don't do. Are you trying to position Mike Hart as the reason for Indiana's?
Whoa!
His departure being the reason Indiana is struggling this year.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay, I
If
just
you
want to
would
make
let
sure
me
I catch that.
finish, you interrupted
Okay, I'm
me like
sorry.
Kanye West and Taylor Swift.
Okay,
What I'm saying
I'm
is
gonna let you finish.
the running backs at Indiana last year were successful and played well. And what I'm saying is the running backs for Michigan this year are playing well and are successful. That's what I'm saying. I'm stating the obvious.
Okay. So you're trying to say that's the
That's
Mike
what I'm
Hart.
stating.
So that's the Mike Hart effect. Is that what you're essentially saying?
Is
Is that
perception
what you're
not
saying,
reality?
Desmond?
Is perception not reality?
I just want you to say it. It's the Mike Hart effect. I just want to put a name to it.
But I'm just
Just
saying,
do it.
perception is reality.
Are you not going to just say it? It's the Mike Hart effect. Yes or no?
Yes. I will give him credit for it. Yes, I will give him
So
credit.
say it like that. It's the what?
I mean, you coined it the Mike Hart effect, but I will give him credit for the running backs play.
How
Who else
much
can you
credit?
give credit to? He is
How
the
much
running
credit?
backs coach. Who
How
are you?
much credit?
Who are you going to give?
On a hot seat. You like to put me on a hot seat, so you're on a hot seat. How much credit? Go.
I'm going to give him. I'm going to say at least 50%. I'm going to give him half the credit because half of it is his running backs. The other half is the O-line.
I see what you're doing here. You're trying to predicate to our audience here, so they don't come at you with the Wolverine pause.
Listen, here's what I will say is I understand now. Granted, I want to be very clear. I played the lowest level of college football that you could. It was Division III, so I get it, right? I'm not Michigan. I'm not a elite athlete. I'm none of those things, and I never will be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually on the downturn. I'm actually getting worse as an athlete and losing athleticism. But what I will say is having a position coach who can teach you, because essentially it's the small details, right? It's the small details that a position coach is going to teach you. Like, I don't think Aaron Rodgers, quarterback's coach, is making him who he is today. I think there are small tweaks and small things that a quarterback's coach can teach Aaron Rodgers, and maybe not even so now, but like, you know what I mean? When he was, his first or second year starting in the league, I think there are things that he could, potentially teach Aaron Rodgers that, it's going to be small tweaks that he can look out for that would make him better. And I think that's probably what's happening with, Mike Hart and the running backs. I mean, I think we saw Blake Corum splash against Minnesota last year, and then basically we didn't see him again, you know what I mean? Like the entire season. Like, so to go from that to, we're potentially talking about Blake Corum for Heisman, and he's leading the country in yards per game. Like that's a big change. And maybe it is just our O-line's better, but I'm willing to give Mike Hart more credit than that, than just to be like, well, our O-line's better, so that's why he's having success.
So the Mike Hart effect. Thank you, Desmond Upshaw. Appreciate it. All right.
That was your response to what
period.
I just said?
I just want to make sure I put up all that soliloquy and beautifully said by you, by the way. Beautifully said by you, by the way. I just want to put the period there. I just want to put the exclamation point for you.
All right, let's talk about the Michigan defense. I think, and I'll just kind of kick it off, but to me, no matter what, no matter who you're playing, it's impressive to hold a team to 10 points. And I don't care that it's a MAC opponent. I think it's impressive no matter what, because say it again.
I said really 3 points most of the game, the legitimate portions of the game, like the legitimate when it 3 points. I mean, 47 passing yards.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's impressive because it's so easy for a guy to, you know what I mean, fall down in coverage or not get in my lane as far as run fits go. Like it's easy to score touchdowns now. And the rules are against the defense. They make it more difficult for you to play defense well. So to me, I'm at the end of the day, it's impressive. So to hold a team to 10 points, I think is impressive. And really, when you think about it, you've got – so I'm taking a look at the scores now. You held Northern to 10 points. You held Washington to 10 points, and Western scored 14. And really, 7 of that was garbage time. So when you look at it, like I said, I don't care who the opponent is. It's hard to keep a team under 17, 21 points. Like, that's very difficult to do. So much kudos I give to the Michigan defense and Mike McDonald. What's your feedback on it?
I'm in lockstep with you. I mean, you can't fake that. You can't fake that in terms of a consistent defense that doesn't make a lot of mistakes, that generates pressure on the quarterback, that causes havoc. It all starts with 97, Aiden Hutchinson, and you gotta tip your hat to Mike McDonald, because here's another thing too. This defense went from a 4-3 to a 3-4. That is so hard to do, and that takes a couple years, to get guys used to playing in a different position, to get your defensive ends now that were in what it used to be in a 3-point stance, now standing up, to make sure you have the right interior linemen to be able to, plug their gaps, and have the linebackers now used to being able to take on a blocker that they didn't always have to take on, right? Because now it's less people at the line, at the line of scrimmage. You know what I'm saying? That's coming right at them, that protection. They don't have that same protection that they used to have. So to do that change in one off season and to come to this season and look pretty seamless, it's incredible. It's incredible. You gotta tip your hat to a guy, Mike McDonald, who didn't have a lot of experience as a defensive coordinator, not necessarily a lot of experience in general, but as a defensive coordinator, and he's done a fantastic job. Now, the only thing I would say is that the only question mark or concern, not complaining, but concern potentially, will be what happens if we have to play a team, or when we play a team that has some pretty good athletes on the outside. And we have to make some changes mid-game. Say we're starting off man-to-man, and that's not working. Can we start playing zone and be just as effective, against teams that we're not physically imposing against? Now, we don't have to worry about that now. We may not have to worry about that till we play maybe Penn State, maybe even Ohio State. It's not a lot of teams in the Big Ten that have great athletes on the outside. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that may not be a problem that we see for a long time, but the way this defense is playing, that's the only potential concern I have. Can we make adjustments against teams that are really athletic? And other than that, we're showing depth. We're showing guys who are disciplined, who know their assignments, who are tackling well. Now we forced a turnover today, which is something that we wondered would they be able to do. They finally got one today, got an interception. And so it's not really much bad you could say about the defense. Not necessarily bad. It's really not even much you can critique. They're playing really, really well. And in today's college football, where the field is so spread, and the whole point of the spread offense is to create space. So it's hard to clog up lanes. It's hard to lock in on one particular portion of the field, and that's not mattering to this defense. So once again, they're doing a great job.
Yeah, and I think too, we talked about it before the season started. Was just my thought was the defense is going to be better just because it's not the typical Don Brown. We're blitzing all the little guys, but then when it comes to playing the big, like, he just didn't have a back, right? His trump card was man coverage, we're blitzing you. And there was nothing. There was the next flip of the card was nothing. Yeah, it just was, and I'm just like, and I felt like with having a different D coordinator, I don't want to, put Don Brown in any type of light. I just don't think he did a great job here at Michigan. So my thought was having a different defensive coordinator.
He did a fantastic job against a weak team. So he was top 5 defense in the country,
Right.
So.
And my thing is just at the end of the day, I'm just like, to have a D coordinator that can balance between zone and man coverage, like, because that's what got Michigan in trouble. And a lot of the big games was, well, we're just playing man coverage. That's for a high level OC, which every single Power 5 offensive coordinator is a high level offensive coordinator. And every one of them, when you see the team is just going to play man against us. Okay, cool. I'm going to call a game. You can't show me an offensive coordinator at a Power 5 school that if I told them going into the game, hey, this team's going to play man against you like 99% of the time, they're going to call a great game. They're going to be incredible. You're going to think they're the best offensive coordinator that you've seen this year. You're going to think they're Steve Sarkisian from Alabama last year. And I thought just the sheer difference of not having a coach that was so dialed into man coverage pressure, I thought the defense would just naturally be better because you put your guys in a better spot. And so far it's definitely looked that way. I think there's some other factors as well. Like I said, I can't sing his praises enough with Aiden, but I think that's part of it is you have an elite pass rusher that just swings the game. Like having a guy like that changes a lot, changes everything. So, like I said, kudos to the defense. Mike McDonald had made a comment last week of it's easy to play defense when you're not out there a lot, and it understandable, and he's right. But it's
to have. I'm glad he has the perspective.
It is. It's a very good one to have, and just that understanding too. Like I appreciate it, and maybe I'm looking too much into it, but I appreciate my defensive coordinator throwing like throwing love publicly to my offensive coordinator. You know what I mean? And like I said, maybe I'm looking into it a little bit much, but I like that. I like seeing that.
Also, it's also about like keeping his guys on notice. Like, you guys are playing well, but we can have areas to improve on. We haven't accomplished anything yet. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of areas. They may not say externally, but it's more internally. Like, hey, we played well, but we still in the film room can pick bits and pieces. Like we didn't do that right. We missed that assignment, right? And that's what it's about. You talk about all the time. And when you have, there's always something you can pull from a game. Especially when you're a coach and staff, and your job is to make sure that you're making improvements week to week. So we may not have seen it because we're seeing the overall game. But when you lock into that film, you go play by play. I guarantee you that there's still areas this team can improve on both sides of the ball, and especially defense. And I'm sure that's what Mike is thinking. We played really well, but I'm gonna break down the film, and he's gonna probably have a list of things like, we got to address that.
Yep, this, and this. Like, yeah, they're for sure going to have some things to look at, and like you said, as a coach, it doesn't matter what level you're at. Once you watch film, there's always things that you can critique and things that you can improve on, no matter how the game ended up. Like whether it was a blowout or
it could be
post game.
It could be as simple as like, a tackle for loss, and one guy that is not running to the football because it appears that his teammate is about to bring the guy down, and he holds up. Let's say this it's Gene Upshaw. Gene's like, well, coach, it looked like Aiden had the guy. No, I don't care. I need to have all 11 helmets on the ball. How many times you hear in your life football coaches say, I want all 11 helmets on the football on defense? All 11.
All the time. All the time.
So that's, I'm not saying that happened today, but that could be an example of the minute things that it was a great turnout as a play, but there's something you can pick out on that field that's going to pay dividends because, for example, let's say that a guy on your defense has his hands on somebody in the backfield. It looks like a for sure tackle for loss, but the running back breaks the play and he ends up getting a positive 6-7 yards. But when you break down the film, there was another Michigan defender who held up as opposed to
had he not been loafing, right? You would have got him.
You would have got him. So those are the small, minute things that you can catch in film. So, but things are going well.
Yeah, so we once again want to bring it up. My name is Desmond. This is Dre. We are the Maize and Blue Review. So we are recapping the Michigan game. They just had a huge win against Northern Illinois, 63-10. We are the Michigan football at the Voice of College Football channel. We appreciate you guys watching, checking us out. Want to just encourage you to like and subscribe. We are at like 1,900 subscribers, so we're pretty close to the Oklahoma channel. They're like at 2,200 subscribers. But want to encourage you guys, like, please, like, we definitely appreciate just your love, your support. Also, the super chat is available. You can search in the description. Actually just updated that to where for Mark Rogers, his Venmo, PayPal, all that, you can just search the Voice of College Football. But we thank you guys so much for being here. So wanted to just highlight that real quick. So let's dive into quarterback play. What's your thoughts on the quarterback play?
Another week of Cade being a good decision maker within the passive plays he has had. It was very encouraging that and I think it was actually on the 12 or 10-yard line in their own in Michigan's own territory. Gaddis called up a play, and they took a shot. It wasn't even a play action. I think it was just in the shotgun. Cade took the ball out of shotgun. Went through his progressions down the field. Saw Cornelius Johnson had some separation, threw a perfect ball towards the sideline, kind of led him away from the defender towards the sideline over his right shoulder. Cornelius Johnson catches it and just strides to the end zone. And that was great to see. And that is something where the offense didn't have the way they were rushing football. They didn't have to do that, but it was an opportunity to try and see, could they make the play happen? Could they find a potential go-to wide receiver for a big play? And they found one in Cornelius Johnson. And Cade, once again, like he did with Ronnie Bell in Week 1 versus Western, put a really good deep ball out there, an accurate deep ball. And I'm looking at a comment by Joseph, he's a little concerned about the lack of a go-to wide or tight end right now. Well, and that's why Desmond and I are continuing to stress the importance of taking those shots down the field in these type of games, because that's when you find out who that go-to person can be. Now, it's just one play, but maybe it can be Cornelius Johnson, but that's why you want those repetitions so we can answer those questions. Because right now we're not quite sure, but Johnson did a good job of at least saying, hey, maybe I'm that guy, one play, but maybe I can be that go-to person. So not much just bad. There's not really anything bad you can say about Cade. He's doing what he's been being asked to do. And the only concerns were always like, what limitations does he have in terms of games in which you need him to do things? Not, okay, it'll be okay. Let's see, can Cade do this? No, we need Cade to make a play. And can he do it? That's the only concern there has been. So overall, good play by Cade.
Yeah, you'd like to see, more reps. But the game doesn't always dictate that. I'm starting to soften on that take a little bit. I still will never, no one will convince me that this is the absolute best and optimal way to get Michigan ready for those tough games. But as far as winning this game, this is the most optimal way. So I do understand that part. And I think too, Joseph had mentioned a little, concern about the go-to person. I would say Cornelius Johnson has probably an early lead on this. I guess an odd part to me was I felt like Mike Sanders still was a quote-unquote starter, but we really haven't seen him, featured as far as in the pass game. And maybe it's just we don't have the attempts yet, but you know what I mean? We had, Cornelius, Ronnie, and Sanders still were the starters. Ronnie Bell goes down. And I guess my assumption was it would be Cornelius and Sanders still would be the guys that you would now see more targets and more, just more of a focus in the offense. Yeah. And maybe we just haven't seen enough attempt, right? So maybe if we see 30 pass attempts in a game, we'll see Sanders still featured, and we'll see Cornelius Johnson featured and other guys. So maybe that's it. But I think Cade is making good decisions, right? And that at the end of the day, what you want to
Goes a
see is
long way.
consistency. I want to see that even in 11 pass attempts, are you making the right decision every time that we throw the ball? Right? Are you going through your progression? Are you going through your reads? Are you understanding your matchups? Right? So you see Cornelius is one-on-one and he's got a step, right? That's the right decision to make. So when it comes down to throwing the ball, it's consistency. It's can Cade make the right decision again and again and again and again? Because that is what, when it comes down to having a pass game and having a pass game that you can lean on, that's all it is. It's getting the ball to the right guy every time. And maybe that guy is, on 3rd and 10, it's checking the ball down, for a 2-yard check down pass to my running back, and maybe he breaks a tackle and gets a first down, and maybe he doesn't. But that's nonetheless, that's the right play versus like, okay, well, I see my running backs open, but I'm going to take a shot downfield because we need 10 yards, and I'm gonna try to go for a deep bomb, gets picked off, and now you're in trouble. So having that consistency of making the right decision every single time is very important, and it seems Cade is doing that very well. So I'll give him I'll give him in the pass game kudos and love on that is because I do think they are doing that to get to the point of, hey, we're going to be a high level offense or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. He just is doing your job, not turn the ball over, and when those opportunities kind of make a play down the field, hit them. And he did that today. It was a great example of that. So that's the key. Continue to take advantage of those opportunities when you get them, because obviously it's become pretty obvious that this staff is going to rely on their biggest strength, which is running the football, which is fine. That's going to be their identity, especially if they can run it like this every week. I understand it. But,
Right.
you just need it. The only question is, when you have to do something different, can you do it? And as long as they can prove that, we're good.
Your thoughts on JJ?
Well, I mean, in the limited time he's in there, he continues to show promise. This season is not about JJ McCarthy. It's about it's about winning the Big Ten. And to me, I'm sorry, I don't have no rebuild bone in my body. 7 years under a coach tenure, so I'm not thinking like that. I don't care if they went 2-4 last year. The goal should be year 7 hardball, win the Big Ten. And so as of now, JJ's only getting in for garbage time, and so you have to be really careful when you look at that kind of when you're trying to evaluate a true freshman in that kind of play, because he's the team is rolling against another team. He's not playing in high leverage situations, so it's not a lot to learn in terms of can this guy start now, right? But the encouraging things that you would see, like, oh, can you see the arm strength? Can you see the reason why this kid was highly touted out of high school? And so far, you've been able to see that with JJ. He throws a really good ball. He has a really good arm. I think he has good instincts, especially for a young kid. He definitely needs to work on his touch a little bit more. There was a play in which it was 3rd and 9 in the fourth quarter, and I think it was Dixon. Had a step on the guy going down the sideline. He kind of overshot Dixon a little bit. It would have been like a tough throw, but that's a touch throw, right? And that comes from repetition and time and learning how to do that. As opposed to in high school, when you can probably and I think JJ was on a really good high school team, IMG, right? Like that guy's open. You don't have to worry about putting that touch there. He's going to have that step or two versus the other, whoever's guarding him in high school. But in college, your guy may not have a huge step. You have to throw him open a little bit. So those are the little minute things you want to see with JJ in garbage time. And I think he shows some promise. But not looking for this kid to take over right now. Just continue to improve, continue to learn the playbook. And there are definitely things that, even though he may be more talented than Cade, there are things he can learn from Cade. The way Cade runs runs the huddle, the way that Cade carries himself, the way that Cade commands the respect. with his work ethic and leadership in that locker room, right? And then also in the opportunities Cade has to throw the ball down the field, he's able to be effective without throwing it, 60 yards like Joe Milton would try to do it, right? He can put the ball where he needs to put it, even with limitations with his arm. So,
yeah.
and
I think sorry to
that's
cut
all I
you
want
off.
to say. No, it's good. No,
yeah, and I think a lot of playing quarterback is special. And it's
tell me about it.
Specialer is not a word. It's more
Right.
special, but a lot of it is really even off the field too. Like when you're at, whether you guys are eating in the, the cafe or mess hall, whatever you want to call it, like in the locker room, like, and not so much like the locker room before the game, but like the locker room every day in practice, like just being in there, like understanding, like you got to relate to a lot of different guys. You got diva receivers over here that you got to, relate to. You got, big old linemen that just want to, knock people out. You got to relate to them. You got, like, there's a lot that you have to relate to. And then you got to deal with your coach, right? You got to deal with, like, coach's personality. So, like, being a quarterback is so, it's unique than anything else. Like, it's not even, when you think about, like, probably the next closest thing would be, like, maybe a point guard in basketball. But I'm like, that's not even that close of a relationship because of just it's just so different. It's just so unique. You know what I mean? Like, so for JJ, like, I think, talent wise, I think he's ready. I think he's there, but it's a lot of intangibles where it's just like, yo, you've got to convince these other guys in this huddle and on this team they need to want to run through a brick wall for you. Like that's where you have to get. Yes, they've got to get there. And if you're not someone who gives them that mindset and that thought, like it's gonna be tough, man. Like, and I feel like today, right now, that Cade has that. Like the guys want to play for him. They want to go out there, give it their all, run through a big wall. Like, yeah, no, we the defense are playing well because they're like, yo, I know that 12 gives me a shot to win this game. Like, and I'm gonna battle, and I'm trying to shut this team out. Like, I'm trying to do literally everything I can to, put us in a good spot and to go out there and win it. You know what I mean?
You feel like Shea Patterson and just play golf, and hope your teammates got your back.
I'm surprised at how good he looked out there in our first practice because he played a lot of golf this summer. He played a lot of golf. When Josh Gaddis said that,
you knew things were this is not going well.
I truly couldn't believe it. I was just like, wait a minute. It's so many things went through my mind, and I'll keep this short because that's about the past. But it's just like, number one, for you to play that much golf and your offensive coordinator says that in a press conference. Now it wasn't like a formal setting, but it looked like Schembechler Hall. But I'm just like, for you to play that much golf and your OC says that to everybody, like publicly, I'm like, you had to have played a lot of golf. But yeah, it's interesting. Wanted to do a quick college football update because I'm seeing a couple scores. Michigan had a dominating win. We've talked about it, and all good things. They're rolling into Rutgers next week, and which we'll get into that next. But a couple things. I saw Oklahoma beat Nebraska today, which that's not shocking. The final score was 23-16.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as a Lions fan, it's terrifying because we're looking for a quarterback, and every week that we don't have like this outstanding quarterback play, and one of the guys we were thinking about that's been talked about being number one overall pick is Spencer Rattler. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's not playing out his mind, so that's the first thought. But that's more selfishly as a Lions fan. But in terms of college football, I think me and you have been going to battle for years about Lincoln Riley, and you think he's a fraud.
Whoa!
Not a fraud. You don't think he's
that is aggressive.
You don't think he's quite as good as he gets heralded to be, and I think he is. And obviously, I think what's more shocking, it's not so much about Nebraska scoring 16 points. It's that Oklahoma only scored 23. That's what's really
Lincoln Riley is an offensive genius.
yes.
So 23 points. I mean, that's been my criticism of Lincoln Riley was I can't continue to call you an offensive genius when you come out here. I think we can all agree. Nebraska is awful.
Yes.
They are awful.
I think yes.
You scored 23 points against them. Forget about the 16 that you gave up.
Yeah.
You scored 20 with the presumed number one pick of the NFL draft. You scored 23 points out of Nebraska. You won. Thank goodness you won. But really? I guess my question to you is, are we going to continue to call Lincoln Riley an offensive genius? That's my question to you.
Well, I mean, like, you gotta get here. I'm getting high energy. Let me calm it down a little bit.
And mind you,
how many Heisman Trophy winners, and at least candidates and high offensive number has this guy put up as being a head coach? So I mean, you got to give him that leadway. I mean, maybe this is an off year, but it seems to be in the past.
This is not an off year. This is not an off year.
I'm not saying it's off. I'm just saying like. I'm sorry, dude. I've seen from, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, and now Spencer Rattler, he hasn't quite taken off, but like it seems to be whoever's playing quarterback for him are putting up high numbers.
Correct.
Western Michigan beat Pittsburgh. Wow.
Nope. Lincoln.
Sorry,
Lincoln.
Okay. I'm sorry. Let me stay focused. It just seems like they're put up great numbers, man. And I'm sorry. I think that them not having the best offensive scoring year doesn't mean that Lincoln is not still offensive genius, because he's, the history proves me right that typically if you're a really talented quarterback and you got a few good weapons, that you're going to put up really good numbers on a Lincoln.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. I'm not gonna to talk about that at all. Michigan State, 38-17 over Miami. That was pretty close to the Alabama score. I mean I think Alabama was like 44-10.
I'm gonna get Sparty credit for one. I don't do, and I think Sparty putting a dagger in our heart over the years kind of humbled us a little bit. So we're not really that too cocky when it comes to them anymore, especially after last year. But I'm gonna give Sparty credit. I think they're good, and I think they're ahead of schedule with Mel Tucker. I don't know if I'm not sure who I would pick between Sparty and Michigan right now in a head-to-head. I got to see a little bit more for both teams. They're different. But they also have similarities too. I mean, Michigan State's able to run the football really good, and Kenneth Walker III has been just as good in his own way as Blake Corum. So he's been really effective. And I think Thorne for MSU has played well as well at quarterback. Look, they deserve a lot of credit. They deserve a lot of credit. I'm not necessarily fearful of them yet as a Michigan fan, but I think at the very least, you could say Mel Tucker is ahead of schedule there, which is fantastic considering the state of the program that Mark D'Antonio left them in. True.
I would agree with that. Let's talk about Rutgers, Michigan's opponent next week. What are your thoughts? What are your expectations? Obviously, we don't know everything, but what are your what are you thinking next week for Rutgers?
I think you will see a similar performance as you've seen the last 3 weeks. This team is starting to prove that as long as they're going into a game and they are physically more imposing than the team they're playing, that they're going to dominate them. They have the right attitude. They play nasty. They play physical. They're stable. That Harbaugh's been known for. That he loves to imprint on his good teams. You got to give him credit. And so I expect him to do the same against Rutgers. I think Greg Schiano, has done a good job there. And
he's back.
He's back. I do think Rutgers will continue to improve. I don't ever see them being like a true contender in this conference, but at least respectable week to week, in which you just can't just walk all over them. But I think Rutgers will come out. I think they will try to compete a little bit the first half of the first quarter, but eventually Michigan's talent and physicality will just overwhelm them, and that's just kind of the way I see it playing now. I'm not taking them for granted. I'm not saying they can't be dangerous, but I just think that Michigan's that much better than them, and that the cream will rise to the top in that game eventually.
Yeah, I think Rutgers will be, before this season started, I think we all would have looked at, this game as an easy, pencil this in as a dub, like no problems at all. I think this game will not be that. I don't think it'll be a game that, Michigan can just roll out of bed and beat, Rutgers. I think they will need to bring their A game at least early, because I feel like because I do think that when you look at the talent level, Michigan is here and Rutgers is here. But if you come out, sluggish and it's the game is closer than it should be, that's when you give teams that are lesser, as far as the talent, you give them that hope of, wait a minute, like we might be able to play with these guys. Like let's really turn it on. You know what I mean? Like, and I just think that when you're playing a team that you are better than and you're just slated to beat, like you've got to make sure you come out and really just hammer them early. Which I think too, the thing that helps Michigan is their hammering a team is the run game, which is more consistent, you know what I mean, than a pass game, right? You could just be off a little bit on timing with a throw, and a guy, you know what I mean? Like it's just like, okay, well, we either throw an interception or an incomplete pass, and it's boom, we're 3 and out, we're punting. Whereas when you're running the ball, it's a lot harder to make big mistakes like that. So I think Michigan will be fine. I don't think it'll be as one-sided as this game today was.
No.
But I could see Michigan easily in the 30s, 35, 38, something like that. Maybe 38-17.
35-14. I say 35-14, something like that. And I saw the Pennant Fanatics that we went to overtime with Rutgers last year. And the only reason why, it's not the only reason, but I just feel like the way this Michigan team is playing now, they're playing so much better than the way that team was playing last year. That team when he was playing Rutgers last year, they had no established quarterback, even a little bit.
It was all over the place. Because of that game, Cade didn't start, right?
No,
Wasn't
Joe
it?
Milton started. Joe Milton started.
Yeah.
They were in a flux. They lacked identity. They were spiraling out of control. And I think like everything kind of came to a head in that Rutgers game, and they barely made out of it alive. I think where this Michigan team is now is a totally different outlook, and I don't think you'll see the same turnout. Like I said, I don't think they're going to just come out and just run all over Rutgers, but I do think they will beat them at the end of the day. They will beat them pretty effectively and easily. Once the cream rises to the top and Michigan starts to overpower them, because here's the problem: when you're a team that's lesser, your margin of error is so small to be able to keep up with the other team. So what's going to happen, even if Rutgers comes out and they're focused and they're playing physical, eventually all it takes is a couple 3-and-outs, a turnover, and Michigan will take over the game. And especially the way that they run the football, control the time of possession, it's just going to be a terrible matchup for Rutgers. So that's what I think will happen.
Last topic I want to talk about is Jim Harbaugh renamed the 9 versus 7 period in Michigan's practice schedule. I think it's the Beat Ohio State drill. Any thoughts? Any feedback on that?
I love it. Anything that drills the point in your player's head, that almost to the point of obsession, that we are committed to beating that team down south, is great to do. Great to do. Again, one thing Ohio State in their locker room has a clock that constantly ticks second by second to the game.
Which is wild, I will say. That is wild.
But it's a great thing to have, and you need to have it, especially when you're the underdog. Even more so You need to
Yeah.
be obsessed. We've been beat, but we've lost 14 of our last 15 games against this team. We need any kind of mentally obsessive motivation every day. I would have every box score of the last 14 to 15 years at
Ooh,
practice shown at every
that
practice.
is. Ooh, I like that. I like that.
But because you need to be reminded of you're the lesser person. You've been a lesser. You've been beat. Prove it. Prove yourself. Change this. You can change it. But what are you doing today to change it? And you're reminded every day of what has happened, right? So I love it. I love it. Kudos to Harbaugh. Look, man, like I Mark asked me last, on a stream in my Harbaugh guy. I'm a University of Michigan guy. I have nothing against Jim Harbaugh as long as he delivers and produces. That's all this is about. And right now, he's done a good job these first couple of weeks. With these staff changes, they seem to have been going really well. So I would give credit to Jim Harbaugh. Now, at the end of the day, Desmond, if we finish third place in the Big Ten and we lose to Ohio State, I'm still going to be upset because that's nothing different than he's done even in his best years here. So, But as of now, I got to tip my hat to him.
Yeah, I like it because, you hear about reports of Ohio State, every week, like they have a Michigan period where they are preparing for the game. So to have, essentially a counter, like you never want to do anything, based off of what someone else is doing. But when it comes to preparation, like you want to be ready, and the interesting part is I feel like no matter how Ohio State has been playing, trending up to the Michigan game, it's never mattered. They've always come out a different team. And I think a lot of it is in part because of just their mindset that they have just, worked on again and again and again, that we're going to be ready to go. Like we're gonna beat Michigan, because we've been beating them literally for the last 12 weeks. And now this is just the culmination, so now for Michigan to have either, like I said, a 9-on-7 drill, I'm like, nonetheless, I'll take it like that. That is still a very good step. And I think, too, that shows me that Harbaugh is seeing the rivalry in the right way, to where it's like, yeah, no, we need to be there, too. Like, we need to be in that mindset as well. So I like it. I was excited to hear it, was glad to hear it. And, I think Jimmy's doing some good things, man. He is definitely doing some good things. Right. For sure. I'm not one to shy away from the criticism, but also too, when he's doing the right things and doing well, I will give him love too. Wanted to give a quick update before we wrap up. I think Alabama, yikes, they're up 20-3 on Florida. So I guess that game's not going to be as a big game as we thought it was.
Yeah, like I told you, dude, you don't like when I say this. Your games are so boring. I hate Alabama games. You guys just suck the fun out of every game, man. Like,
they're going to you. Like they're going to you.
Yes. Yeah,
Here's what I'll ask you.
You, it's probably great.
Here's what I'll ask you. Was the Michigan game today boring to you, or was it exciting seeing guys making plays, scoring touchdowns, and making stops?
Well, it gets boring after like 40.
Oh, get it. All right, I'm done with you. You're not going to lie to me on this live stream in front of 56 people. You're not going to do that.
Boring. Okay, dude.
You're not going to do that.
Okay. All right.
Tell the truth. Shame the devil.
Dude, I mean, no, I don't want to be in a dogfight, but why not?
Why not?
Well, that's not fun. I don't want to have a heart attack. I want to be able to enjoy the game and just kind of chill and see highlights. But when it gets to the point where it's like, you have it, dude. If you're drinking a beer at home, you can't even pop the beer can open and sit down before Alabama has like a 20-point lead in most of their games.
You've watched an Alabama game with me. How did that go? That was
an anomaly. That was an anomaly versus Ole Miss, and yeah, you guys are in the dogfight.
We didn't watch the Ole Miss game together. We watched the Michigan Alabama game.
That was fun for me, but it was a close game though. We weren't destroying you. Dude,
All
my
right.
point most of the time you guys are your games are over by like the 10:50 mark in the first quarter. That literally, so that's my only point. Enjoy it, Desmond. I know you have a great life as a Bama fan. Enjoy it. I'm not saying feel bad about it. I'm
I
just
get
saying
it.
as
I
a
get a
person who doesn't have
balance
skin in the
because I'm
game
an
for
Alabama
Alabama games,
fan, but
it's
I
boring as
also
shit to
am
watch.
a Detroit Lions fan, which they are a disaster right now, and we don't need to get into that now. Maybe we'll do that on our podcast. But
Don't speak their name. Why are you doing this? Right, we're having a good time. We're watching some good football. Your team's winning. My team won today in great fashion. Why we gotta talk about the Leos? Can we not do that?
we don't need to. We don't need to. I just mentioned it. That's all.
Let's
That's
not
all.
do that.
Anyway, everybody, before you guys go, please
Monday
like and
Night Football.
subscribe.
Yeah,
We
Green Bay.
appreciate it.
I know.
What? What are you talking about?
I was about to say Monday Night Football playing. This
No,
is not
I
about
don't
them,
care about that.
but I'm sure
No.
there's some Lions. Let me just 30
Whatever.
seconds.
No.
We're not gonna
Before
do
you guys
that.
go,
Okay,
like and
we're not gonna do
subscribe.
that.
We
I'm sorry.
appreciate the support. Michigan football are the voice of college football. We definitely appreciate it. We will be here for you next week as well after the game. So set a reminder so that once we go live, you'll get a notification and you can come join us. But we definitely appreciate it. Send your feedback, your questions. We love it. We definitely appreciate it. And I think we are good to go.
Dependent Fanatic, hey, I love you. I appreciate you being here every week. Georgia might have a chance against Bama. We can't. Let's not do that now. I could have a chance. I can't go there. Be careful. I've been burnt before.
You
That's
only
the
need to cross
Alabama.
that
Tell me
bridge
something.
when you get to the bridge. So
that's a different that's a different animal right there. So, but anyway, I get your point. Let's have fun. But you don't want to.
let's have fun out there.
Want them to ruin your team. All right.
Cool. All right, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everybody, for viewing. We appreciate it, and we will see y'all next week. Peace.